Hi everybody! In this video today, we're going to talk about how to read a lead sheet. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about are pointers to help make it easier for you to decipher what you see on the page. So the first thing that you're going to notice when you see the lead sheet are partial musical ideas. You'll see a lot of chords, and you'll also see the melody line with the lyrics written in. So obviously the melody and the lyrics are the easiest parts to decipher because you probably know the song, or if you don't, you'll be able to read the melody and read the lyrics as you go fairly easily. In order to read the lead sheet, you have to have a fairly good working knowledge of some theory. So you need to be able to understand relationships between notes, so intervals, as well as some fairly basic chord structures. Some songs have more complicated chords, but for now in this video, we're just going to focus on some of the easier ones to help you get started. Chords are built on intervals of a third. So if we wanted to figure out a major chord, we would know that we need 4 semitones between the first note and the second note of the chord. So 1, 2, 3, 4. If we wanted to make a minor chord, we would need 3 semitones between the first and the second note of the chord. So 1, 2, 3. So we would have this for major, and we would have this for minor, the lowered third. The first thing you need to be able to do is figure out the difference between major and minor chords and how they're notated on the page. So if you're used to playing piano music, you're probably used to seeing triads stacked together, joined by one stem. In this case, you're just going to see chords that are written on top of the staff. So how do you tell the difference between a major and minor chord? Well, that's pretty easy. A major chord will be an uppercase letter on top of the staff. If it's a minor chord, they will add a lowercase m beside that. And then if there are any additional notes that need to be added, you will see numbers like a 7. Also, another chord that you should watch out for is a suspended chord. So in that case, you might see an uppercase C with sus written beside, and that just means that this is a suspended chord. Here we are at the keyboard, and we're going to talk about major and minor chords. So let's start with major first. So we'll use C as an example to start. And triads or chords are just built on intervals of a third. So we would want C to be the lowest note. We would want a third above that, E, and a third above that, G. So a C chord on the keyboard would look like this. Now let's talk about minor chords. So the same principle applies, intervals of a third. Let's use the same again, C on the bottom. This time we would not have E, but we would have E flat and G. So the middle third is actually lowered. So we would have this for a minor chord. Now let's just use the example that we have from the song Cornerstone. An A minor chord would look like this. So A on the bottom, C, which is the lowered third, and E on the top. So that's major and minor, or this for another option, major and minor chords. So here's our C chord. And if it was a sus chord, we have 2 options. We have either the second or the fourth. So the second would look like this. So a D would end up being the suspended note. Or we can also suspend the fourth, which would look like this. And my personal preference for sus chords is to use the fourth because it resolves very nicely to the third, which is back to our C major chord, which we've learned already. Another thing you might see, in addition to some of the things that I've already pointed out, are what we call upper extensions. So if you see a 9, 11, or 13 written beside, those are just upper extension interval notes that need to be added to the chord. Basically, we're still using the concept of thirds So this is what a 7th would look like. And a 9th is just another third above that. And 11 is another third above that. So if you encounter a 9, well, it's not very practical to try and play a chord like this. We obviously don't have enough fingers. So all you have to do is bring it down to an octave that fits within the hand. So for example, I would play like this. So I would bring it from here down to here. One of the benefits of using a lead sheet is that it gives you a lot more flexibility at the piano. So if you're just a beginner and you've just started learning how to read it, my advice to you would be to keep it fairly basic. So really just focus on getting the chords in the left hand and adding the melody, because that's going to be the best thing to do to support the singing. If you're more advanced, some of the things that you can experiment with are inversions of the chord, also leaving off the melody and just letting the singers focus on that, and you can be more free at the piano to add some of your own filler and improvise a lot more. So it's basically a great way to get you off of the page and getting more creative at the piano. So we've spent some time learning about intervals and chords and upper extensions, so now let's put it into practice. And we're using the song Cornerstone as an example. If you're a beginner, I would suggest that you try to play chords in the left hand and do everything else with your right hand. So let's take a look at what that would look like. And you can use the pedal to help carry things through. Now just play the melody with your right hand and just keep the chords going in the left hand. If you're comfortable with that, then the next thing that you can try to do would be to experiment with moving the chord between left and right hand, but still being able to do everything that's on the page. So for example, you might do something like this. So I'm basically playing the melody, but I'm adding the chords in the right hand too. Oh, there's a sus chord. So going back to the beginning, all I was doing was basically arpeggiating the chord. I was leaving out the third, but if you wanted to add that in, you could. It would sound something like this. But it kind of sounds better without it, and it adds the attention to what you're doing in the right hand. When we got to that melody part, just try and keep the melody in the top part of the right hand and do everything with the chords down in this part of your hand. So it would look something like this. So all the chords are underneath, and the melody is on the top. So often as pianists, we're really used to learning everything that we see on the page. And we're always focusing on making sure that we get everything that's on that page to come out. The great thing about the lead sheet is that it totally frees you from that. So don't see it as less musical. See it as an opportunity to get away from the music, to feel the music, to be more creative and experiment at the piano. So if you have any questions, you know where to find me, Rachel_Ewing at can.salvationarmy.org. And as always, don't forget to like our Facebook page and subscribe to the YouTube channel.